Archetypal mind, a great and fundamental portion of the mind complex, and one of its most basic elements. The archetypal mind is a substratum located in the deep subconscious portion of what Ra calls the tree of mind. It contains the blueprint or architecture of the nature of the evolution of mind, body, and spirit. The archetypes are said to be aspects of the face of the one infinite creator, or aspects of the cosmic mind, or all mind. These are then refined by each sub-logos, the solar logos, to create an archetypal mind unique to that logoic system. All third-density beings within the domain of that particular sub-logos then share the same archetypal mind. Please recall the definition of the archetypical mind as the repository of those refinements to the cosmic or all mind, made by this particular logos and particular only to this logos. A complex of concepts, parts and whole. Our own sub-logos chose the system of sevens, 7 each for mind, body, and spirit, with the addition of the choice to form an archetypal mind of 22 archetypes, later visualized for teaching purposes in the major arcana. This set of 7 includes matrix, potentiator, catalyst, experience, significator, transformation, and great way. Each of these archetypes consists of various components, concepts that, together, unify into an indivisible concept complex. These 22 concept complexes can be studied on the level of function, but Ra counsels that, at base, they are independent unto themselves, each with their own persona or melody that may inform the mind of its own nature. Each archetype is a significant ding and sich, or thing in itself, with its own complex of concepts. While it is informative to survey the relationships of one archetype to another, it can be said that this line of inquiry is secondary to the discovery of the purest gestal or vision or melody which each archetype signifies to both the intellectual and intuitive mind. Each archetype has within it several root atoms of organizational being. Separately, the overall structure of the complex cannot be seen. Together, the concept complex is irrefragably one thing. However, just as it is most useful in grasping the potentials in your physical systems of the constituting nature of water, example, hydrogen and oxygen molecules, so in grasping the nature of an archetype, it is useful to have a sense of its components, concepts. The archetypal mind is the pure, undistorted architecture of the third density mind designed by our local architect, the sub-logos, the sun. Architecture is in fact Ra's most oft invoked theme when describing the archetypal mind. The archetypes function as the great base or plinth of a builded structure or statue, keeping the mind complex viable, level, and available as a resource whenever it may be evoked. This designed mind contains not exactly a plan for evolution, but rather, when penetrated lucidly, is a blueprint of the builded structure of all energy expenditures and all seeking without distortion. Prior to the emergence of the third density mind-body-spirit complexes on a given planetary sphere, the archetypal mind blueprints or maps an architecture that contains all facets which may affect mind or experience. For the coming third density entities, this archetypal blueprint articulates the basic parameters for the operation of the mind complex, its relationship to body and spirit, and its journeying of seeking. Those parameters fall into broad categories or patterns of evolution which include the dynamic relationship between the conscious and subconscious, the potentiated catalyst that stimulates movement and experience, the experience which is distilled in order to furnish learning, the dynamic synthesis of all experience, the purification and upward transformation across boundaries and levels, the environment within which the mind evolves, the realizing of the self as the creator, the making of the choice. The key to the archetypal mind, says Ra, is polarity. Designed into every facet of the archetypal mind is some invocation of polarity, particularly service to others or service to self, feminine or masculine, and conscious or unconscious polarities. But while the archetypal mind has a consistent and universal structure for each logos, it will be viewed and called upon uniquely by different individuals and different racial and planetary, also known as group minds. No two seekers and no two groups will view the archetypal mind in exactly the same way. A resource or tool only. As a blueprint, however, the archetypes themselves do not do the living. The choice making, the seeking, the experiencing. Ra repeatedly describes the relationship between the third density entity and its own archetypal mind as the relationship between a living being and a profound resource or tool within itself. Please keep in mind that we are discussing not the archetypical mind, which is a resource available equally to each but unevenly used, but that to which it speaks, the incarnational experiential process of each mind-body-spirit complex. We wish to make this distinction clear. For it is not the archetypes which live the incarnation, but the conscious mind-body-spirit complex. It must be seen once again that the archetypical mind does not equal the acting incarnational mind-body-spirit complex's progression or evolution. The archetypical mind is a part of the deep mind. There are several portions to this mind. The mind may serve as a resource. To call the archetypical mind the foundation of experience is to oversimplify the activities of the mind-body-spirit complex. The archetypes are not the foundation for spiritual evolution, but rather are the tool for grasping in an undistorted manner the nature of this evolution. The major arcana are tools for the further knowledge of the self by the self, for the purpose of entering a more profoundly, acutely realized present moment. For the adept seeking the one infinite creator, Ra indicates that the archetypal mind is one of the richest sources of information. Among the general ways that this resource may be helpful is in informing the mind of its own nature, articulating the processes of potentiation, experience, and transformation, vivifying the mind complex, clarifying catalysts and the journeying, empowering the seeker to walk, to polarize, to become the creator, and helping the seeker to enter a more profoundly, acutely realized present moment. Study and becoming. At the point at which an entity, either by accident or design, reflects an archetype, the archetypical mind resonates. Thusly, random activation of the archetypical resonance begins almost immediately in third density experience. The disciplined use of this tool of evolution comes far later in this process. Ra describes the archetypical mind as an available resource for the adept, one they consider extremely important for the student studying the roots of mind. For such a student, they recommend 3 different means of studying their own archetypal mind. Astrology's 12 astrological signs of the zodiac and 10 planets, the tree of life, and the 22 major arcana of the tarot. It is well to investigate each discipline not as a dilettante, but as one who seeks the touchstone, one who wishes to feel the pull of the magnet. One of these studies will be more attractive to the seeker. Let the seeker then investigate the archetypical mind using basically one of these 3 disciplines. After a period of study, the discipline mastered sufficiently, the seeker may then complete the more important step. That is, the moving beyond the written, in order to express in an unique fashion its understanding, if you may again pardon the noun, of the archetypical mind. The LL Research Trio, Don, Carla, and Jim, chose to focus their investigation on the tarot. So it is only through that source that we have Ra's perspective on the archetypal mind. In responding to that investigation, Ra recommended a general program of study of the archetypal mind using the tarot, offering various points of insight about the symbolic information contained within each image, and spoke somewhat to how the student may carefully evoke and become an archetype when it deemed spiritually helpful. The investigation was unfortunately cut short by the end of the Raw contact. It reached little beyond the mind cycle, the first 7 of the major arcana. The tarot was developed as a means of studying the archetypical mind during Ra's own third density experience. Ra later transmitted this teaching to the ancient Egyptians, who translated them into culturally congruent forms, years later recording them visually as the major arcana of the tarot. Each logos desires to create a more eloquent expression of experience of the creator by the creator. The archetypical mind is intended to heighten this ability to express the creator in patterns more like the fanned peacock's tail. Each facet of the creator's vivid, upright, and shining with articulated beauty. We wish not to form that which may be considered by any mind-body-spirit complex to be a complete and infallible series of images. There is a substantial point to be made in this regard. We have been, with the questioner's aid, investigating the concept complexes of the great architecture of the archetypical mind. To more clearly grasp the nature, the process, and the purpose of the archetypes, Ra provided a series of concept complexes. In no way whatsoever should we, as humble messengers of the one infinite Creator, wish to place before the consideration of any mind-body-spirit complex which seeks its evolution the palest tint of the idea that these images are anything but a resource for working in the area of the development of the faith and the will. To put this into perspective, we must gaze then at the stunning mystery of the one infinite Creator. The archetypical mind does not resolve any paradox or bring all into unity. This is not the property of any resource which is of the third density. Therefore, may we ask the student to look up from inward working and behold the glory, the might, the majesty, the mystery, and the peace of oneness. Let no consideration of bird or beast, darkness or light, shape or shadow keep any which seeks from the central consideration of unity. We are not messengers of the complex. We bring the message of unity. In this perspective only may we affirm the value to the seeker of adepthood of the grasping, articulating, and use of this resource of the deep mind, exemplified by the concept complexes of the archetypes.